Trust your invisible mind. Here's the one with the worst luck, as opposed to the one with the luck. Both of them are common around us. Let's take a moment to look into the lives of these two. First of all, it is about a person who is having a hard time wanting to die, facing the worst moment. In his early 30s, he met his bad boss at work, and worked so hard that he died from overwork. He went to work for 31 consecutive days in May, when there were many national holidays. Even out of the 31 days I went to work in a row, I couldn't get off work on the day I went to work. It means that I left work after 12 p.m. Even if I left work before midnight, I continued to work in front of the computer home on work calls. There was no exception on weekends. Even when my grandmother, who had loved me a lot since I was young, passed away, I couldn't go to the funeral. I wanted to visit him at least a leaden place after the printing. But I also got a work call from my boss who told me to come unconditionally. And I turned my car around on the highway and returned to work. Eventually, he became an incurable disease 2 years later, due to the after effects of overwork. In the meantime, I invested all of my assets in the land since I was a new employee. But I was scammed, and I ended up with $0 in total assets and tens of millions of won in credit loans. This time, it's the story of a really lucky person. This person is also an office worker. In his mid to late 30s, his work life went well. He was told that he was working well at work, and he always received an grade in her department, and was even selected as the youngest head of her department. He got along well with a team member who was older than him, so he had a good reputation within the department. Financial technology, which I started by studying alone, has gone even better. He earned several decades' worth of annual salary from apartment investments. Before the government strongly regulated the real estate market, he discovered and invested in undervalued apartments before a department store entered the neighborhood, earning more than 200 million won in 2 months. In addition, by buying unlisted stocks and accumulating assets through US stocks, he secured enough cash to make his salary no longer meaningless, and declared a fire tribe. He no longer lives doing what others tell him to do. He is living a happy and phenomenal life, where he does what he wants to do and does not have to do what he does not want to do. The person with the worst luck and the best luck mentioned above is the story of the Hawaiian mansion, the author of The Mind. What led me from the worst life to the best was not money or fate, but because I realized my potential through my unconsciousness. This book contains the process and practices of changing your mind. While feeling skeptical about your life and thinking about how to proceed, let's listen to the author's review of this. When I got accepted to a large company, my aunt told me that I had to play as much as I could for the rest of the year. I don't have that free time when I work. I thought it was strange at the time, but I had no interest in the unconscious at the time. The unconscious, I knew that such a word existed in the world, but it had nothing to do with me. I was completely indifferent to the unconscious, but my unconscious was sending signals with that feeling of discomfort to me. Don't take it as it is, my aunt is a precious person to me, but the words are just one opinion. It wasn't until more than 10 years later that I realized that was the first time my unconscious sent a signal. Since childhood, I have always thought that when I become an adult, I must go to work, because my parents have been office workers since I was born, and they have told me that joining a so-called good job is a success. But it was very strange. My parents woke up early every morning and came to work diligently. But my family was not rich. Of course, I didn't feel anything strange in my childhood, because I thought there was nothing to do with the rich. The rich are not jobs, and the rich are separate. At that time, I thought there was another person who became rich. I've heard a lot that the sky is falling for the rich. I think that me and the rich are essentially completely different. Who on earth, when and how did this idea come up with me? To become rich, you must first cleanly delete the poor thoughts installed in your unconscious mind. When you focus on something, you lose interest in other things. And you don't care. All the mind and body energy is focused on one thing. The day goes by quickly. Life becomes extremely simple. However, my consciousness moves the busiest of all the days in my life. Where? Forward. Consciousness taking each step forward. Every time you take it, you will hear a groan. But instead you will see new, invisible landscapes. The path I walk on is not paved. Not on the road, but on the sticky and sinking mud path, I walk on it. That must be why it's so hard. The mud is composed of many things, so it's not that viscous. Perhaps it consists of things like actual snacks, safety, and giving up. Now, with each step I take, the hard sound comes to a boil from the deep inside of the danjun. But my unconscious feet, ankles, calves, knees, and thighs are getting harder and harder. It's just not noticeable. At the time, I was desperate, and really desperate. I really showed crazy persistence for the first time in my life, so much that people said, "It's poisonous," and stepped back. In the meantime, there was only one thing I had to do. Believing in myself was not easy, actually, because in the past, I had never accomplished anything before. This means that I had no credit or collateral at all. The bank doesn't lend me money without credit or collateral. Not lending money means that there is no basis for the bank to trust me. Maybe you feel the same way as I did in the past now. At that time, I didn't have enough grounds to trust me. However, I gradually built trust in myself by looking at the future, through visualization and seeing myself who really did it. So I could just trust myself recklessly like a crazy person. And I was able to finally face opportunities and luck. What did I do? The following is the process, by which the success process was installed in my unconscious mind. 1. If you are desperate and desperate for yourself, you think I should or I should change it. 2. Based on that idea, I make goals and plans and then start for now. 3. The actual process unfolds differently from the plan. 4. Still, I keep going. What I need at this time is a stick. 5. My consciousness constantly raises doubts about me. Consciousness is an inflexible principlist, so when you think or start doing something you don't usually do, it raises a survival threat signal and interferes with your unconsciousness. 6. Every time I do that, I notice that this inflexible consciousness is now just working hard at his job. And then I do exactly the opposite. In other words, trust me and keep going. 7. Still, it's not going as well as I thought. At this point, people think they've failed, but I disagree. I'm in the process of doing what I want. The curriculum originally includes moments that don't go well. And you have to go through this period to successfully complete the whole process. Let's not just do something that ends in the middle. Then it's the same as getting an F. You have to go all the way to the end to get an A or B result. 8. The reason this curriculum is particularly difficult is that the subject, assignment, or goal is far better than others. The curriculum is also easy for easy subjects, assignments, and goals. 9. Not many people want to take a difficult and complicated curriculum. Everyone is reluctant and not popular. I feel like I'm the only one listening to this. That's how I'm isolated. During my time alone, I perform as a practitioner. 10. Nothing is free in the world. Anything has a price. If I go all the way, I will be paid a much bigger and more shining price than I thought. 11. The price varies. The sense of accomplishment, the experience that hundreds of billions of dollars can't buy, the recognition of others. After a hard time, there are so many amazing things that follow me. 12. I ended up doing it all the way, and I did what I wanted. I call this a success. Once the success process is laid on the unconscious, it becomes a tremendous weapon. Above all, I finally have a basis for trusting myself. Now that you can trust yourself more safely and trust yourself once you have done it, you can even trust yourself and experience. Now you can trust yourself anytime, in any situation. Based on that belief, you will do it again, and then you will make it easier. In this way, the virtuous cycle of success repeats itself indefinitely. At this time, there is a point to remember. This process of equipping the success process cannot be performed in a hectic daily life. Let's take an example. You are reading. If your family or acquaintances are next to you, laughing and talking, and various notifications are ringing non-stop on your smartphone in your pocket, will you be able to read a book properly? You have to put down your smartphone and go into your own time and space. You can't read properly while doing everything you normally do in your daily life. Eventually, you have to isolate yourself. You have to go into a cave. You have to do so to achieve what you desperately want. Ryan Holiday once said in his book Brave that it was time to cross the wilderness. In the past, when I was also in difficulty and naturally became distant from the people around me, it became the best opportunity of my life. This condition is called self-isolation. Winston Churchill, who led World War I to Britain's victory, had to be removed from the post regardless of his will when his political career reached its peak. For the next 10 years, he spent a period of self-isolation in the countryside outside London. People would have thought that his political life was over, but in fact, his isolation was deepening. It is because he was reading, writing, taking a break, and thinking. Looking back, my life always went as I imagined it to. I think I knew instinctively at the time. The fact that if you just set a goal you desperately want without worrying about it, even if it felt unrealistic, and then imagine a life you really want, it will eventually become a reality. Surprisingly, over time, the things that you want to achieve have happened repeatedly. Beyond surprise, things that could only be explained by the word crazy were actually happening. I became convinced. I realized that a desperate wish would come true. Dear Abby, I spent 10 years as an office worker. I poured my heart out every moment, but I had never in 10 years received a heartfelt thank you, other than the usual thank you messages at the end of all kinds of work calls and emails. No, I didn't expect that kind of thank you. I too just wanted to do my job well, earn a paycheck, and let my family live a good life. Now, people are thanking me. My life has changed thanks to you, he says, expressing his sincere gratitude that he saved a family. The head of the household, who tried to make an extreme choice over 2 children, tells me that I have a new life. A person who was thinking about closing down sends a letter of gratitude, saying that I have earned hundreds of millions of dollars every month. I got a shudder. I felt a feeling that I would have never known in my life if I hadn't felt it in person. At the same time, I felt that the positive energy of gratitude and positivity was fully filled in my mind and mind. Now that I know this feeling, I can no longer live like I used to. And crucially, I deeply realize the ordinary truth that the better everyone around me is, the better I am. This is why I wrote this book that shares my success journey as it is and informs the mind at the center of it. Did you enjoy the author's review? His life has completely changed by changing his mind. At first, I also did not believe what the author said, but I felt true through specific data and logic. Above all, I was deeply touched by the earnestness of informing even one person of the successful experience of my mind. I hope you will succeed by believing in your potential and practicing it. Trust your invisible mind. You believe it too. You succeed because you believe that. I will always support your dream.